Hi everybody, it's Honest John here. Hope you all had a very merry and safe Christmas. This week, a Chinese citizen journalist was sentenced to 4 years in jail. Her crime was reporting on the COVID-19 outbreak in Wuhan, China. Now, usually the United States would be leading the charge in criticizing the Chinese government for putting someone in jail just for telling the truth. But not this year. Not with Donald Trump in the White House. A man who cozies up to dictators and expresses admiration for them. He wishes that he could do the same thing to journalists here. This year, 274 journalists were put in jail worldwide, a record high number. China, Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia are among the leaders in that effort. But authoritarian governments around the world have been emboldened by Donald Trump's attacks on the free press and are using the same rhetoric that he does, like calling journalists enemies of the people. In addition, 31 journalists have been killed this year. I hope and expect that when Joe Biden takes office, he will reaffirm the U.S. commitment to a free and unfettered press both in the United States and around the world. And that he will lead the way in pressuring those nations who are jailing, harassing, and murdering journalists, regardless of our relationship with those countries. In fact, if a nation is considered to be an ally, the pressure we exert should be even greater. The Founding Fathers, when they established this country, recognized the importance of a free press and enshrined it in the Constitution and put in special protections to make sure that the press could operate without constraint from the government. So Donald Trump's assault on the news media is just as much an assault on democracy as his attempts to get foreign countries to interfere in our election, and his attacks on election officials, or his attempts to overturn the election. And we must stand up to these attacks and see them for the threat that they are. Journalists are heroes who risk their lives pursuing the truth. An attack on them is an attack on all of us. Now, there's nothing wrong with criticizing the news media. Sometimes they get things wrong. Sometimes they decide that this story deserves more coverage than that one. And those are legitimate areas to critique. But when people just dismiss the news media as being not credible, they become participants in the assault on our democracy. And when you think about it, every single one of the important stories of the past 4 years has come from the mainstream media. The New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC were warning us, for example, about the threat of COVID-19 while it was still in Wuhan, China. And while the right-wing blowhards and Fox News were calling it a hoax. Fox News, by the way, is not news media. They are a propaganda outlet for the extreme right. Calling themselves a news channel does not make them one. So you have the extreme right, which is no longer the fringe of the Republican Party, but has become its core. The Russia and Ukraine scandals, Trump's corruption of the Justice Department, and the crimes against humanity at our border were all brought to us by the mainstream news media. So the extreme right rails against the liberal bias that they have because they won't tell the lies that the Republicans want them to. Meanwhile, they hang on every word from the drug-addled mind of Rush Limbaugh or the psychotic rantings of Alex Jones or the lies of Sean Hannity. But it's not just the extreme right. People on the left routinely denigrate our free press. They complain about corporate media, which shows that they have not given it any thought. It takes a lot of money to pursue a story, for reporters to spend months digging through files and chase down sources and travel overseas to see what's going on. You can't do that on a shoestring. So you lefties out there who dismiss the free press, you're as big a threat to our democracy as Trump and the fascists on the right. And those journalists that you denigrate, they're much better people than you are. So think about that before you open your stupid mouths. Thanks for listening.